There's a lot of giving us an
So,
opportunity.
who is it? Have you been over there for parts?
No, I
Oh,
have not.
sorry,
This
what?
would be my first.
Where?
Where?
Workout,
Oh,
switching topics.
Oh, okay. That was nice of them to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they had an application with us, but they have withdrawn. It was approved.
I didn't tell what they asked.
Yeah, so they are not, they have no.
Man, when it
Just waste.
Okay, we're good.
Leaving at.
Good. You recording?
Yes.
We will start a few things at 9:35.
Okay. It's not really 9 o'clock.
All right, 9 o'clock. I call to order the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency Executive Park Committee meeting on September 4th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Roll call, Alan.
Tim Robinson, Dan Bruno,
Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum. We have 3 out of 5.
Great. I remind everybody if we can use our military voices to help with the audio, as folks have mentioned that they do like to review the video after our meetings. All right, everybody received a copy of the minutes for the July 3rd, 2024 IDA Executive Park meeting. I would entertain a motion to accept those. Dan, second.
I'll second.
Cam, any discussion? All right, motion carries. Moving on, reports of committees. Dan, take us over. Park Chair.
See, we met at the site last week, Dr. Nye, our favorites from our consultants and representatives from Kiewit to review the bin preparation within our school, excavated soil, et cetera, and it looked good. I believe they they started soil.
They have started, they've had 3 deliveries in the past 24 hours, and so far everything appears to be going very well.
Additionally, we met 2 weeks ago. In fact, we had a meeting this afternoon at 1 o'clock with the Bella to see what's going on, monitor the progress, the design, the final design for the wastewater and water, potable water system upgrades to canal side. So far, so good, but it's early. Here's a schedule that Paul Diego from Labella has put out. If anybody wants to look at it, that's fine. We're having glasses. Additionally, we have been approached by one of the tenants, Our Electric, of a lease, additional lease for the property there. They're leasing a small building there. Probably is 22,000 square feet. Anyway, I think that proposed lease is
No, actually CDRE is handling right now to vet out some of our electric needs to then talk about lease negotiations.
For market rate.
Not only that, but also the scope of the lease, the exact additional land perhaps, duration. We're taking a look at the entire lease situation.
so. As I said, this afternoon. Meet this afternoon. And 2 p.m.
Today.
today.
With Labella, okay.
And discuss a number of topics. Reviewing here. Interest you. Also concerns permitting, initial work, etc. Look at that schedule. About this proceeding with the detailed design and final. No more this afternoon. Any questions?
No, good. I have a few things with the maintenance and tenant updates, but as far as the overall report out, good.
Good. All right, anybody final mulligans here? Again, we are meeting with Labella every other week. We understood that battle rhythm will give us the best shot at staying ahead of the game. And so it's been working well.
We've invited some additional people that we might have, still having.
Yeah, representatives from the village and the town are now participating. I'm very happy to be participating. So early involvement is a very healthy thing.
The schedule looks like it'll all be bid out for January, February.
That is
That-
the target.
That's the goal.
That's the first draft schedule. It's fairly aggressive, so the teams will be looking at that, particularly our friends on the legal side, because there are some legal protocols that we need to go through as far as district formation, the extension of districts and things like that, so.
Water.
Yeah.
Look at the schedules and final.
Right.
Yeah, no,
I've
no,
been having conversations with Matt Fuller, and we're trying to see how the meeting schedule of the county and the municipalities and our meeting schedule, because we've got to go to committee and then there's timeframes that we have to meet in the county law versus the town law, or even they all have different notice requirements. So we're trying to put together, a schedule of tasks from like a procedural standpoint. May not exactly jive, because there's just some times we can't get around. And the meeting schedule, and then, in all honesty, as soon as, we're getting into we'll get into the holiday schedule, and then we'll see if any meetings get canceled, that they get canceled. So,
Yeah, and
but
my main point was that Gantt chart that you saw is a first draft, it's a living document, so every 2 weeks it's gonna be updated. And so we need the input from our legal team, and that could slide back a few of the dates,
Sure.
so more to come.
But construction anticipated in spring.
It is.
yeah, I think that's still the same target. It's just whether
Yeah.
some of those dates are gonna be pushed out a little bit as far as the approval process. I mean, and then, we can't, that would assume that every meeting there is an approval or it goes forward. So we're kind of going back and forth on that.
And we're motivating it to as quick as possible. We have the fast New York criteria. We have people looking at the site that are interested in it, so we want to get that site developed as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, moving on to canal side maintenance update, Chuck.
So a couple additional items, you might recall, we had bid out electrical maintenance assessment. Our electric won that bid, won that contract, and took the site power down back on July 29th and tested the switches and the transformers. The preliminary report from August 19th suggested there's no major issues. There might be a few minor issues, such as battery banks that might need to be replaced. But at this time, we don't think there are major issues. We are waiting for the transformer oil assessment report, which I understand just arrived, but our electric has not had time to go through it, so we should receive that report shortly. Hopefully it will verify that we don't have any major issues. For next year's budget, we will put some funding in for some of the minor work, but again, that information should come from this report that we'll have by the next meeting. So more to come on that issue. Long as we're on electrical, Tara, do you want to provide that update that you and I were corresponding on this morning?
Yeah, I asked, National Grid about the status.
This is the transformer, the switch yard.
Yeah, she
Ownership of the
said,
power.
she's the right-of-way survey, supervisor at National Grid, Helena Gajewski. And she says she's working with one of the engineers and one of the attorneys on a draft document. She thinks that they're gonna structure it as an amendment to the WCC amendment that I think created the confusion. So, we shall see.
More to come.
I'll just keep,
And so the end result again is us.
Taking ownership of the tower within that gated space. Yeah, which is normal practice, actually. So anyways, the only other thing on maintenance is, we've had a lot of rain, this summer, and vegetation's grown wildly. Everett is working hard to take care of it. Dan and I are watching carefully. We might come back in the fall and suggest RFQ for some additional landscaping work to keep ahead of some of the vegetation, particularly the bigger trees. More to come. Everett has suggested he has it under control. We're giving him a few weeks to do what he needs to do, and we'll see how things progress. There is a lot of vegetation, and we think it's a little difficult for one person, but he wants to go after it, so we'll see what happens.
There are some larger large trees, large that want to get out of there. Not sure if ever is up to that task, which is fine. Get someone else. to take care of it, but they are a concern.
Yeah, and just a reminder, as far as the funding, it's not in the budget, but we're overrunning the budget on the revenue side because of additional grain shipments. So we're doing very well. So we'll have that extra funding to cover this expense if we decide to move forward with
We
it.
expect that to go down in grain because of the strike being over up in Canada.
As far as grain shipment, there's actually two different strikes. Everyone was explaining to me, there's two different strikes.
Okay.
So they both have to be resolved. One is being resolved. The governor told workers to go back, but there's another one that's still under strike conditions. So we should probably continue to see high grain shipments for the foreseeable future. And that's it on maintenance, unless there are any questions.
The only, the vegetation in and around the transformer, is that gonna be another concern?
Yes, Everett and our electric are coordinating to go after that work. So they're in discussions right now on going after that underneath the tower.
Underneath?
We understand.
And around the perimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the issue there, is the safety side.
Yeah.
Everett goes in there, he needs people to work with and all the proper safety protocols. So. Okay, should I go to tenant activity?
Any final items on canal side maintenance before we move on? Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, tenant activity, Dan's already covered the soil storage, so we're in good shape there. Covered our electric, we're in good shape there. The only thing I'll point out is New York State ESD continues to periodically ping us about site selection opportunities. A lot of times we provide information, never hear back, so we are careful about getting too excited. But if anything serious, any serious opportunity surfaces, we'll of course engage CBRE and the board accordingly. And that's it on tenant activity.
I'd just like to add in, if you look at Chuck's email, he has this great chart of yellow and greens on, and as you see those in the future, you're gonna see the yellows and greens, change. And it's fascinating to watch what's out there, what they're looking for and how our site matches up to some of these prospects. And you're gonna see it's never gonna be the same. And so it's very, dynamic, which is gonna allow, as we educate the board, and the board sees that more as we decide to make infrastructure improvements, should we not be able to sell it quickly. You're gonna see that, yes, that helps in one situation, but not in 4 others. And so very, very interesting dynamic, and Chuck will continue to educate the board on those types of prospects and that chart is thing. If you only get a chance to read a small portion of that email, then focus on that chart, and that's gonna be helping you see what the customers are.
Yeah, one thing Juan suggested is that as we get these pings from ESD and we respond back, to actually send this information to the board so they're aware. Again, a lot of this doesn't go anywhere, or at least you'll be aware of the fact that we are being pinged from ESD.
All right, Airport Industrial Park.
We have one prospect looking to buy a few lots that continues to work on a draft conceptual plan. Progress has been slow because the business does have high activity in the summer and expected to pick up in the fall. Other than that, that is the only material prospect we have at this time. And Ally, I don't know if you're going to do you want to do your update on the brush cutting, or is that later report out? No, actually, you don't have a report out.
I have not heard from Mr. Kelly as far as where he's at with the brush cutting. I did send him a contract to sign because it is a 3-year contract, and I haven't heard. Have you heard from him?
I spoke with him on a different topic. He did allude to the fact that he owed the IDA something and it was on his
Okay.
radar.
Okay, all
But
right.
admittedly, that was.
On his radar.
Your statement gives me better context for what that even meant, so.
Oh, just the contract.
Yeah, just the annual brush cutting that typically do in the summer or fall.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it for the airport industrial park. Is there any questions?
One question, how many lots are left that are available?
At the end of Ferguson Road, we have approximately 5 lots north and approximately 5 lots south. So we're about 10 lots.
And usable.
And usable. We have other lots that we are as you know, from past reports, the wetland trust has initially expressed interest, but has since declined. So we still have the action to notify neighbors. So we're gonna go down that path this fall, notify neighbors if they're interested.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more coming. Yeah.
Great.
Do you want an update on my conversation with Dennis Kelly?
Yes, please.
Ally reached out, I guess Dennis had potentially expressed some interest in the wetland lot. And he had questions that I guess you didn't feel comfortable answering, so I did talk with him. He wanted to know what could be done with that wetland lot. Says it's deed restricted, it's completely done, it's out of touch. And I owe him another phone call because I did have a conversation with Stephen George at North Country Ecological. That the water control structures and the berm at the north end of the lot, maintenance is still allowed. So if we have to access those to repair erosion, to cut vegetation, because that may be something that we need to take a closer look at. If there's woody vegetation growing in and around those structures, that probably ought to be removed. I know I kind of had that on my mind that when I'm passing through the area, I might take a look at those just to see what current status is. His initial concern raised with me, and I think that's probably what was expressed with you, Ally, is since the berm was installed, he has a larger area on his side of the property line that is wet. And it took me a little while to figure out what he was really driving at, because the drainage in that area from the berm goes to the north. But he's finding or expressed to me that the water that is impounded behind the berm now, as he says, is over waist deep. I wouldn't have figured it was quite that deep, but I'm not gonna say it isn't. And that leads me to two other things I'll get to in a minute, but because of that, he says where the channel used to be before the berm was very small, very narrow. But now that the berm is several hundred feet long, he seems to feel that water is migrating through the clay berm slowly, and it's making his side of the property line wet over several hundred feet. He didn't really indicate that he was looking for any kind of corrective measures of that nature. But he wanted to know if somebody was to purchase that, what could be done with it. I said, you can't touch it. The only thing we can do is maintain what's there currently. I thought initially there might have been some interest on him purchasing the property. I don't think it's there, but that would be a discussion for the IDA to take up if Mr. Kelly comes back with it.
I think it wasn't he thinking, Ally, that perhaps under farmland utilization that he could do more with it, but.
He was hoping,
He's
yeah.
hoping
Yeah,
that there's a deed restriction.
He
Yeah,
just-
so it
okay.
doesn't really matter.
So the only other thing that we could look at for him, they told him, take a look at the existing water control structures, make sure they're functioning the way they should at the correct elevations. And just any of the other outlets. There's an outlet near the corner of County Line and Casey Road. And then we've got the swale that goes down, that heads towards Ferguson Lake. Water control structures, take a look at to see what current conditions are.
Okay, we'll want to arrange that you and I schedule to get out there.
Sure. Bring your machine.
And boots.
And move.
Yeah.
You need a machete.
And
And we'll talk to Carter Sill.
not yet, not yet.
I now see that it's becoming dangerous. Have you seen the new buses? The buses that we have now are nowhere near what we used to have. They're much different, like the city hall. Big, that road was a 55-mile road. And they pull out and in and out of it. That's now, I think that's dangerous, but that's exciting. Somebody should do that. Somebody should look at it. The other thing, so I think he needs to, he's like, we'll see.
Do you know how large their site is over there next to it?
Know it by numbers, no. I've been there many times.
I'll drive through, I'll take a look.
I don't know how he turned the buses.
So I had this thought in it with Tim's comment earlier. I think we want to execute on it. So Alec, any chance that map that we have of airport industrial park in the office that had color coded which lots are ours, that's a bit outdated, can we get a new one that has yellow, fully wetlands yellow, and then what we believe is sellable blue? So we, as we get new board members, they can physically see the locations.
I think we have the map already, right, wetland delineation map, and basically do that, and then we can tell them lots that are not affected.
That way we.
Yeah, but you want it that big,
As
right?
of, yeah,
Yeah.
one that big that we can just bring into the meetings, that way. Folks
I
can
see. Yep, that's a
as
great
well. We
idea.
can send it out, so they have it as a like version as well. This one,
Yeah.
our rally cry will be to try to divest in all of this hopefully within 2 years. Go ahead.
Right, I can share it with this PDF.
Maybe you can print out a large drawing.
Or I
I
bet
can print it out.
Staples could.
We got big print capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to color code it, I can, or you can just go right. So,
Yeah.
We'll take off one, we'll just do.
The one question I did have is I noticed when talking with Mr. Keller, I was looking at GIS at the time. It looks like 30 lots, 33 or lots 34 have now been merged into the wetland lot. Is that correct?
We'll have to take a look at the map.
Okay. Because that surprised me. There was still a little bit of usable space there. May not be necessarily attractive to anybody.
Yeah, we'll just take a look at the map.
All right, anything else on airport industrial park before we move on? All right, ongoing business, Fast New York updates. Again, we continue to work on this. We do have the banking RFP, as well as we still have our first draw to do with Fast New York, which will give us a very good understanding of how long reimbursements are, which will then follow into cash flow discussions and then the banking RFP. So we are in a good spot there. Anything from your end, Ally? So
when would that be? When
it's quarterly, so July. So I have to check and see if they did. I don't know if we had any expenses for July, but October, end of October would be the first draw.
Okay.
And then,
First request of the draw.
First request.
Followed by, what is the contract saying, 90 days?
well, it's every quarter, but, like what we know for, the other grant, within 2 weeks is what, so we're hoping that payments within 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Which will then be very helpful for us.
Yeah.
And then we're still working on trying to, instead of getting both grants at the end of the quarter, pushing one to mid-quarter, so we have separate timeframes for the two grants, yeah. So small things we're still working on. Anybody have any questions or any updates on Fast New York specifically? All right, everything on the foot, closing update. Start with Ally,
I haven't heard a thing.
Kara,
Okay.
but we're right at the closing where we think the lawyers have to. I think the last update said we were pretty close. We thought we were close. His lawyers.
The last update
The
was
bank.
that we're waiting on some information from the company.
Okay.
The bank is my understanding as well, so we just haven't been updated with the status yet.
Very big extension.
Okay,
Yeah, very big extension.
okay. I know we're supposed to be some mid-September, so
Now,
October. Okay.
what? I anticipate it happening.
Okay. Oh,
But when we approve the application, we're still within the timeframe that nothing has to be.
well, we'll ask that question if anything has changed. My guess is that probably nothing has changed with respect to the scope of the project. So, but we'll confirm that before we close with them. obviously.
Anybody got anything else for everything underfoot? Any new business? Any other business?
We'll mention that for the, Adirondack radiology and binocular applications, Warren County is consented. Karen and I went to the meeting, but they moved up the meeting by an hour, so we missed the meeting. Well, okay, but they still passed it, and I guess we have Washington County next
Well, and the
Thursday.
applications and the updates.
And once the consent goes through, then Carol will do her magic with the closing.
I'm ready. I've got no out of town dates, so whatever you call, I'll make the trip. All right, any public comments? Any public comments from our board members online that are muted?
Where's that baby?
He's good. All right, no comments online. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Dan, second. Tim. All right, we are.